Loch Kelly, it's a pleasure. So good to be with you.
Stuart, so nice to be back again, connecting halfway across the world.
Like the whole way across the world. I'm in Western Australia, you're in New York. It can't get much further.
That's right.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
just woken up. I think you're getting into the nighttime. But how have you been all in all? It's been a
Yeah.
lot has changed since we last connected. And how are
Yeah.
you doing?
Yeah. Doing well, and being part of the solution and response, and both having an opportunity to not travel so much, so having an opportunity to go a little deeper into my own practice, and having the good fortune of having my wife with me. So the two of us have become closer and more loving, and that's an amazing gift. And then being able to use these internet and online teaching to really offer people around the world an opportunity to go deeper and to have some consistency with these practices of awakening, which has been amazing to hear feedback about.
That is amazing. Yeah. My wife and I were just watching the documentary, The Social Dilemma. Have you seen that yet?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
I did see that. It's
So
quite remarkable. Yeah.
it's very mind blowing, and it's good that that information is coming out about the toxicity of the internet. But
Yes.
I'm hearing great things of how
Yeah.
teachers are really being able to spread beautiful messages and really
Yeah.
strengthen community in a beautiful way.
Yes.
And these teachings that can be, it seems, if one is like diligent and does the practice, it
Yes.
can potentially be just as potent as in person. What do you think?
Yes, I think so. I think it invites us to feel a subtler dimension of connection, and to drop into that. Certainly there's advantages to being together, both physically, being able to hug or greet and meet and have this human gathering of human animals who like to gather, herd together and in positive ways as community. But connecting on this subtler dimension and giving people kind of an opportunity to not have to spend money on a plane and a room to come to a retreat. So I've been doing series, evenings, afternoons, weekends, that people are able to stay at home. And the particular practices, these glimpse practices, this practice approach of effortless mindfulness is really designed for people to be able to do it no matter what you're doing during the day. So it doesn't require long periods of retreat, meaning getting away and closed eyes practice, that it's really accessing this, background, foreground shift of the awakeness that's already here. And so across time and space, just pointing out and asking people not to look at the screen, but to feel back and have their awareness rest back wherever they are, connect to each other, and then connect to the awareness that has their back.
Yeah, that's been one of the main reasons why I've gravitated towards your work. I was seeing in myself, and it was my main thing is yoga, and I was seeing a commonality of waiting to get back on the mat.
Yeah.
Or waiting to be back with the teacher, which is all well and good.
Yeah.
But I was observing a very common pattern of being neurotic about that and not really being present much outside of the yoga mat. And then a whole kind of almost curriculum of like a checklist, got to do this pose, that pose, the other pose before I finally release into meditation or shavasana. So I found it really potent and refreshing, these practices that, yeah, we can apply it to anything. And as a parent, I've needed that, because there's been periods where I literally haven't been able to roll the mat out for days, you know. So to just access it, whatever we're doing, I mean, that's what we need right now.
Yeah, I think that's been the gift of the, you know, the difficult part. We all know the stresses, the kind of unknown and losses that people have had, but stay at home, if we've learned to come home to our hearts as well. At first, for some, it was a struggle because it's so new and there's other stresses of adjusting, but I've had the opportunity to work with people now in a consistent way, and it can be any moment of the day to be able to unhook and drop and open and include and shift consciousness from small sense of self to not knowing to the not knowing that knows, which we'll go through a little bit with people here just to, as an introduction or a refresher, depending on what people have.
That'd be great. And the last episode we did together was one of the most popular episodes I've put out there, and people really loved it, and the feedback was incredible. But there was a few people that reached out saying like they couldn't quite hear it, like they couldn't, they did, because it was subtle and so direct. And I mean, I was loving it, but there was a few people that were like, it didn't register. So which I found quite, because I listened to it again, I'm like, I'm just trying to get into that perspective of kind of beginner's mind, really, which is beautiful. Do you think we could do a glimpse practice to speak to someone that's very new to all this? Like the languaging is very new, because admittedly, often you do talk to people that have already had awakening experiences and they're already established a practice. But would you agree with that? Do you mainly speak to that?
I mean, I tend to focus on stabilizing awakening. So I'll do introductory work, and I, you know, just did another, I always do introductory course. I just did one last night to people, and I feel like I got 8 out of 10.
Okay.
You know, so there was like, I think there was 300, but it seemed like
that's pretty good.
Was that number. But as you say, I mean, which is remarkable, because this kind of practice, direct practice, is introducing you that the end is the beginning. You know, that it's saying it's already here, just shift into it, and you'll experience what people after 10 years of meditation or after 5 days, you know, many people say, oh, that in 3 minutes I felt what I experienced on the 3rd day of a retreat. Something like that. That's an often you know, those even who practice a lot. But beginners, I've had people walk in off the street and, you know, get it. So I'm trying to language it, but it is, you know, usual meditation and yoga does work with our physical body and our attentional system in a way that we know it. Bring your attention to your breath. When your mind wanders, bring it back. So those things we know. So there's a few new moves, a few new dimensions of consciousness that we haven't intentionally learned how to access. And so there's a little confusion, and the old habit kind of snaps back to bring us back to our small self and our mind and our doer. And we try to do it with the doer, or we try to do it even with a meditator. And so it takes a little, and often people who are, I hope this isn't an insult, but they're often very smart and intellectual. They're actually very good. They're very good at the world. They're actually, and those are, so it's not people who are like, oh, I'm, you know, I'm not, you know, smart enough to get this. No, it's you're too smart. That's the problem.
I think there's that. And because for a couple of them, I'm very close to them. I just kind of kept talking about it, just tried to pick it apart a bit to see what their past practices had been. The two people I'm thinking of, they'd done a lot of hypnosis and like very esoteric, colorful type guided meditation.
Oh yeah.
Which can be beautiful.
Yeah.
But I think it can potentially also be a bit of a distraction. If potentially that's your only practice, and then we're doing what may seem possibly boring, maybe if it's not like all colorful and constantly guided, it may, like, if you're not dropping into that awake awareness, it may seem, well then what? Like, keep talking, like make it more colorful. And so that was an experience I heard as well, which was quite interesting.
Yeah, there's it's funny. I mean, this may be a divergent thing, but it's kind of seems relatable. Sure. Is that number of people, for instance, somebody in my last course, he's midway through it, and he said, I couldn't get any of this stuff, so I went down and I did ayahuasca in South America, and I had this amazing experience. It opened my whole life. And now that I'm doing your work, I was just about to go back to do ayahuasca, and I realized I don't have to do ayahuasca.
Right.
So in some ways, there's that dimension of going beyond the self, but it's not with the trails. That's the only part that's not there. So it's not like things are not melting, but all the felt sense qualities of oneness and unity and love and safety and okayness and beauty, everything like being lit up from within and feeling interconnected, that people do psychedelics, mushrooms, MDMA, that this is the qualities of some of the similar qualities to awakened consciousness that doesn't have the trippiness. And some people are more into the trippiness or the excitement or the drama, and the visualization can work as a preliminary practice, but then there's a stepping beyond conditioning into this pure awareness. But I don't stay that long in that. Some traditions do. That's just to unplug and plug into the pure awareness or the awake awareness. And then as that awareness recognizes its arising as this kind of dancing aliveness, there's this feeling of connection and dropping from head to heart space and flow consciousness, interconnection, feeling of like unconditional love and bliss. So those aren't too boring. So
no, not at all. I guess it's really just the journey to there, where we're magnifying distractions and irritability and those compulsions that can seem boring. I mean, it's just bringing up stuff, which is good. So maybe we could do one to speak to that experience, if you don't mind. And yeah, because it is very valuable, like to have an awareness that boredom that often comes up in the practice is actually, it's okay. Like what can we do with that initial hurdle of boredom, irritability?
Yeah, it is because of the tendency of our conditioning to be either feeling a sense of lack or a sense of pain or a sense of constant distraction in the world. There's kind of a craving after positive experiences that are like very dancey and very, oh, what's that? What's this? What's that? What's that? And that seeking mentality is trying to keep itself up.
Yes.
In the positive visions and experiences, to stay away from both the negative emptiness, which is kind of a loneliness or a boredom or an ennui or like a depression or oh no, there's nothing to do. Now I have to think about myself. Oh, what's wrong with my life?
Right.
You know, so just keep dancing as fast as you can. So what this does is say that whole system of operating from a small sense of self, you with an energetic body, that small self cannot live a fully intimate emotional life. It will get, it is too controlling, and it can't handle grief and even real great joy, let alone, you know, being able to heal trauma or repressed contents. And so there's a tendency to just search to solve the problem of what's wrong with me, how do I solve the problem? So that little manager or ego center where it's actually just a function, just an ego function that thinks it's an identity. And so it kind of feels like it's a little mini me behind our eyes looking out in the middle of our head. And that's just one operating system that is, once we relax into, and we know that it's not just getting rid of that, but that there's another dimension of spacious, invisible, alive field of awareness that's dropped and opened and inclusive. And that's what we've felt when we've had the best times in our lives, when we've been in nature, walking with friends, and we think it has to do with the thing, the people, places, or things.
That.
Yeah. And so this is saying, okay, so what if that were actually essentially who you are, and this other dancing as fast as I can and trying to solve problems to get there, or to plan the vacation to do that thing again that brought me that in 6 months from now. What if we could actually just step out into this and then include everything from this greater capacity, which can allow movement of emotion and different parts of us that are needing our loving awareness, and can have this kind of discriminating, compassionate intelligence rather than judging mind and contracted small self. So that's the, so I'll just lead this into a little exercise, a little inquiry.
Please, thank you. And something you just touched upon with the ego, and then I'll shut up and just let you guide us through a glimpse. But I think there's a common notion as well that we need to fully like kill the ego death, get rid of the ego, because we have the realization maybe, or we've read in some books that we're not our ego, etc. So there's a common seeking, a common quest to kill the ego, or kind of numb out the thinking mind, so we're not thinking at all. So there seems to be quite a bit of common confusion around that. We can embrace the thinking mind, but also log on to this awake awareness, and there can be that kind of transcending and including type experience.
That's right.
Yeah. Yes,
absolutely. Yeah. So those are kind of the typical kind of halfway stopping points. So, you know, there are systems that emphasize different things like killing the ego, or stopping thoughts, or just becoming pure awareness, and as if you're the movie screen and everything else is just illusion that's coming and going, and I'm just the pure awareness. And so those are all kind of preliminary steps that it just don't stop part way, is what all I'm saying. And that, you know, what you discover is that the operating system, the ego center, or is just a managing part that is created with thought going to thought, creating a feeling of I think, therefore I am. But it's just trying to do the best it can to help us out as a kind of transitional subject. And once we open, not just to kill it or deconstruct it or fight it, or just realize no self, that's the goal, or as if we're beyond emotions. Those are not. But if we open into the new operating system, which is awake, invisible, contentless, timeless awareness that arises as imperfect thoughts, feelings, and sensations, so that thoughts are made of awareness. So actually, you don't have to stop thoughts, because when you're aware from the changeless awake space, and it's arising as these thoughts, oh, I should do that, I should do that, the intelligence is going like, okay, well, thanks for sharing, and I'm not going to get on the train of that thought. It can kind of mostly go into the background, can pop up, but even if it does, it's just like sitting in a noisy restaurant and having a lot of people talking behind you. Mm-hmm. It's not a big deal to have thoughts, or so the key is that there's a new more palpable but invisible feeling of being, or grounded being, or true nature, or self with a capital S, or no self that has certain markers and has certain ways of recognizing itself as itself, and then it includes everything. It includes the judging part and the scared part, and that's one of the keys in terms of bringing psychology into that. You realize, there's that judging mind or judging part. It's like, okay, but that's not me, that's a part of me, and that's going to arise, and if you try to push it away or analyze it or get rid of it, it will just be repressed and come back. So if you just listen to it and allow it to kind of be loved, and let it know that discriminating intelligence is using the judging function in a way that doesn't have to create a harsh critic.
Yeah. All right, very good. So, I mean, that felt like a glimpse practice right there. Was it?
I mean, it's a way that I'm kind of talking from this, about this.
Yes.
To your mind, but I'm actually talking to yourself that's already awake and kind of going like, I see you.
Yes.
I see you. You're there. Guess what? Come on out. And you're spacious, and you're loving, and you're interconnected, and it's not just like a positive, happy, loving part of you. Yeah. It's literally love itself. It's not even compassion. It's literally unconditional love. It's like a fabric that is your ground, that is hard to accept because it's so amazing that there's an original basic goodness or original innocence, to which then that capacity to be with your imperfections, that you're going to make mistakes, and you can apologize, and you can acknowledge what's feelings that are coming up, and not take your temperature by what's arising to that, but realize that things need to start to detox and move through, and that you're not doing that they're just arising. And it's not about what's arising, but who or what is it arising to that we're interested in. So that's all we're doing. We're not messing with the personality program so much as upgrading the essential operating system, who am I? And when we get to the who am I, then that who or what can be with the parts of us that have been trying to adapt and struggle and defend and protect, and in a way that they start to thaw out and detox. So it is not a talk about something, it's a talk from something to just point out, this is here, this is okay, you've experienced it, you thought it was only for Olympic athletes of meditation, or only when you do certain activities or go to certain places, or it can't be done intentionally. And this unique thing is to say, yes, you can navigate your own consciousness and you can learn how to do it. And some people can glimpse right away, more than half people. And then others, it will just take a little longer to learn which doors work for them. But you know, and if not, you know, while you're trying this, you can keep doing other things. So it's all good. But it seems like it's really an opportunity to make it very learnable, teachable, because it's awakened consciousness is available within each of us, as each of us. And it's really, I feel like, the next natural stage of human development. So it's not even talking about evolution of consciousness, but it's like already within us, we could develop into it like a stage of childhood to adulthood. We can develop to awakened adulthood or...
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think another common hurdle on the path is to experience that, the indescribable, to experience it, but then to grip to it. And I think a lot of us have had some kind of conditioning along the way that we're trying to get everything in our control and perfect in terms of form, in terms of thoughts. Again, trying to create, waiting for that next holiday, waiting until we've paid off the mortgage, waiting until kids have grown up, waiting until we meet the perfect lover, waiting until we've really nailed that perfection of form, really. Got the perfect life, and then finally I'll rest into contentment, into love, into joy. So is that just a big old ego trip? Or even if we, life's shit right now, say like we're lonely, lost all our money, depressed, just nothing's going good right now, I'm deep in it. Can we still access it? I mean, I know we can, but can we speak to that? Can you speak to that predicament of life is really shit right now and there's nothing going good? Can we wake up to this awake awareness even in that turmoil?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the beauty of this, which you know, I had been sitting and doing long sitting meditations down in Sri Lanka, and then went up. I won't tell the whole story this time, but basically ended up being sent by the Dalai Lama, who was just for the first time teaching Dzogchen, which is a kind of a direct path Tibetan Buddhist tradition. And I put my hand up. I said, who should I go study with? He sent me over to Nepal, and I walked in, and you know, this Toko Urgyen Rinpoche had this small group of people, and he just talked for a little while like I'm doing now, and then just did the short pointing out. And I was like, oh my God, this is the same as the end of a 21-day retreat, except my eyes are open. I'm laughing, I'm crying, I'm like, it can't be this available, this simple, this amazingly full, not just empty. It's not the absence, it's kind of a fullness. And so when I went back and trained as a psychotherapist, I started experimenting, although I made the mistake at one point of starting to present it in front of like the group of therapists, and then my supervisor was like, I think what you're doing could be dangerous. You better not do it. And I said, okay, well, I better not talk about what I'm doing.
Right.
So I learned not to tell everyone, but I had one ally. So anyhow, so this was working with people who have complex trauma. So talk about depression, trauma, abuse. So with one person, I'd be with them and they'd be talking about depression and suicidal thoughts. And I said, okay, is there a part of you that wants to hurt yourself? And they said, yeah. I said, where is that? And they said, it's like right here. It's like choking me, and it wants me to just end it and be, get rid of the pain. And is there a part of you that wants to live or wants to be free and joyous? And they were like, yeah, there's a little bit. It's like a little lower. And I said, who's aware of those two parts? And this person went, well, I am. I said, well, where are you? And they just started laughing and go, well, I'm kind of everywhere, but I'm here. And I said, okay, well, let's explore that. Just stay there. And they go, oh my God. Yeah. Oh, I remember this from childhood. Whoa.
Huh.
And then once introduced, you start exploring it. And the Tibetan word for meditation is often translated as familiarize. So you familiarize yourself with your true nature, and then you bring it to the depression or the anxiety or those parts of you that are making you feel like you've got to be more contracted to be safe. So it's almost those managing parts that are smart and have a certain strategy of, I've got to solve this problem. I've got to, do what feels right. I feel out of control, so I better be controlled. So I better control myself more. I feel anxious, so I better shut everything down. So it tries to solve this problem. So let's do a little. So if you feel like the little mini me or the small ego center is one of its main roles is to solve the problem, and it's always got a problem to solve. So no matter, even when it solves one problem, it goes, okay, that's good. Now what's the next problem? So it's always centered with this thought-based, emotional, scanning for danger, going to the past, projecting worst-case scenarios into the future, so it can always find a problem. So within this system, but then this simple inquiry for those who are listening and are interested and willing to see what this is like, just check what's here now, just now, when there's no problem to solve. So just understand the words, and then just let the problem solver relax. And then don't look to the content, to thought, but feel back into the context. What's this that's aware just now as you feel you're dropping and resting back into that which is here when there's no problem to solve. So the feeling that it's both equally inside and out, but it's not focused on managing or fixing or controlling. It's just with. So what's it like? What's here when there's no problem to solve? What's it like to be aware from this, as this, that's aware? And just notice what's absent and what qualities of presence just naturally arise or come to the foreground. And then what's the relationship from this to arising thoughts, feelings, sensations, and even the world? What's the relationship when you remain open and include everything without contracting back or creating a small self-center? And keep feeling back, surrendering into that which is already effortlessly aware. So there's some spontaneous maintaining from this effortless awareness that's contentless, unchanging, that's arising as the changing contents without particularizing or needing to go to thought to orient in order to be alert, and to rest without going to sleep. And just that feeling of being, what's that like? What's changed that was here a few minutes ago? And what qualities seem to be more natural? And then the last curious question is this a meditation state, or could this be actually the essential nature of who you are, to which other states could now come and go? What if this were not a altered state, but what if this were your natural condition, in which the multidimensional states could arise to this? What would that be like? And if it were that, would you want to live like this? If you could. So that kind of gets the heart's motivation interested. So what do you say, Stuart?
Of course. Of course.
What's
Yeah.
what's your experience there?
How simple it is, and how easeful it is to reside in the ground of our being. Then I kept kind of popping back into my role of like wanting to. So what I felt was like, yeah, truly resting into that pure awareness, and then, oh wow, like the mind actually is our tool, our kind of servant in a way. And so what I was feeling was like I was thinking, but it was very spacious and not a big deal, and wasn't identified with the thinking. And then what was coming up as well was like, okay, there's a lot of issues going on in the world right now, a lot coming up, a lot of our traumas from the past are coming up. And I was just thinking, like, wouldn't this be one of the most powerful modes of activism, really, to not just sit in a cave by ourselves and drop into this awareness, but to really, all the anger, all the divisions in the world right now, all the racism that's coming up, keep healing it essentially through bringing it into this type of awareness. Because I mean, I'm rambling on, but an argument that often does come up in the community, often from like neo-tantra practitioners, is that practices like this, aren't they a way of bypassing the challenges of life? But it really feels like this approach isn't that. It's allowing everything to come up, and truly giving it a chance to be healed and a chance to be seen and loved and like purified. So yeah, that was a long answer to my experience, but it really does feel like the tools to truly activate, like you were saying, this next growth, this next movement of what we're able to embody. But I also do think that I'd like to get your take, like, so we can be doing all of our other things, but do you think this is enough? Which I think it is, like to wake up and do a glimpse practice, beautiful, to do it again while eating, to do it again while making love, to do it again while working. I mean, could this be it?
I mean, it includes the fullness of, the essential practices of awakening. And then, of course, you're going to do, some physical, relational, dimensions of growth are going to happen at the same time and in conjunction with. But where you're doing them from is different. So, the key to this form of non-dual embodied open-heartedness is that it's not the same as much of the Neo-Advaita non-duality. So there's some non-duality that rests as awareness, and then you are the awareness, like a movie screen in which the movie of life just comes and goes, and you're separate or not involved. But this goes from stepping out of the small mind to not knowing to the pure awareness. And then the key move in this more Buddhist style of non-duality is that from the pure awareness, you start to be curious about what the first movement of energy, aliveness, thought is made of. And rather than being the movie screen or a big sky in which thoughts and feelings come and go, you start to feel, oh, that's all made of it. So you become this ocean of awareness arising as this wave of your body. So you literally feel the awareness come into your body and kind of drop into this heart mind, which then feels like your body from within. So I've had dancers and yoga students who said, I'm feeling my body from within for the first time in my life, because they've been trying to feel it from outside or from the muscles or from mindfulness. And this is literally from the field of awareness that's in your body that feels like its awareness is arising as your body. So you feel this kind of ocean wave feeling that's interconnected to all the other beings. So being embodied is being connected to everybody. And being embodied and then being open-hearted, looking out of the eyes of your heart mind, not your emotional heart, but your heart mind, then you start to have a new view and a new motivation for action that comes from courage and love and compassion and joining in the world. I mean, I live in New York City, and my wife and I, go to the marches in Times Square, for George Floyd and others. So, and we, do activism naturally, but we do what we can as part of the community so that we don't feel like we either do nothing or have to save the world. That's the other thing, is you start to realize that you can be involved, and then, I've made some meditations, I think we talked about recognizing your own prejudice part.
Yeah.
So for those of us who were raised white and male and all sorts of cisgendered, there's a way that, we feel like we're liberal or progressive or, but just to find like little parts of us that are prejudiced and let them be liberated, it just creates a whole nother, so that courage to keep growing is part of this fullness of awakening. And it's very dynamic and enjoyable. The first feeling when you do this fullness of opening, realizing, resting, including, embodying open-heartedness, is you feel like a kid on the first day of summer vacation and you want to be in life. You're just like, let's go. Like you don't become like, feel like, oh, this is so good, I'm just going to meditate all day. It's like,
Right.
no, this is about living an awakened life with your eyes open
Mm.
in whatever way you want to contribute and want to live. It could be in a monastery, but that's a small amount of people. It could be doing anything, bagging groceries at a grocery store, and sharing the love with people.
Mm. So with everything coming up right now, this prejudice piece and all the other aspects of trauma that really are coming up collectively, it is a common experience without a doubt that it's paralyzing people, just kind of stewing in the stuff coming up, or aggravating people and maybe getting activated to go out and protest, which is great. But of course, we've seen the aggravation get inflamed to a place of, is that anger, and that it's a slippery subject because of course, like I think there's a saying, like, if the village isn't taking care of the kids will burn down the village. We're seeing that happen a bit, like a lot of people are feeling like they haven't been heard, they haven't been seen, and it's a volatile time. So if one is in their anger and really feeling like need to go out and stir some stuff up, to work with something really hot and intense, such as righteous anger, especially when it's for a good cause. Can we right now play with a glimpse to really get into something when we're feeling our nervous system is aggravated, we're feeling very righteous, we're feeling very angry for a good cause, to then like refine that into a more conscious anger or compassionate anger, or however you would put it? What do you think about that?
Sure, yeah, we can do that. That's a good advanced practice that people have to be ready and interested in, but I have one, I have a couple, but one particularly just came to me, because, you know, anger is a form of light force. It's a form of courage. So it could go to anger or resentment or rage, but it can go to aggression, assertiveness, standing up for, be willing to speak up. You know, all those are in that assertive taking action toward the good. And in there is that catch that can turn anger inward and then take over, so that it connects with early childhood angry parts, and then fuels itself, so you don't get the positive aspects of speaking up, acting with others, and being able to let it go at night when you're going to bed, so that, and having aspects of other loving qualities toward the angry parts and toward the feeling that ultimately everything's okay. So let's try this little kind of short series of working with an angry feeling or part. So, you know, it usually is done with eyes closed, but you can do it eyes closed or eyes open. It'll take, you know, like 5 minutes. So for 30 seconds to a minute, you're going to feel something and then move on to the next thing. So just, you know, start bringing forth, and you know, recommend you start with, you know, if you're concerned, start with a small, something you're annoyed at or angry at if you want, just to practice, and then you can go for the bigger things, you know, once you learn the protocol, the, you know, the kind of glimpse practice series. So start with the feeling and the saying to yourself, I am angry. And then feel that emotion and feel it completely, and allow it for 30 seconds. And just feel what that's like when you're completely identified, but allowing that feeling, I am angry. And now just make a small shift to say to yourself, I feel anger. So just shift a little bit toward your feeling of anger. I feel anger. So let the anger be in a part of you or in an observable area. I feel anger, or it could be a waves, but you're feeling it. See what that feels like. And then one more shift. I am aware. I am the awareness that feels anger. I am aware. I am the awareness that feels anger. And then feel what that shift feels like. And then this last one is saying, as the awareness, anger is welcome. As the awareness that's equally outside and within, anger is welcome. So feel as if you've kind of pulled back, and now as this spacious and pervasive awareness, feel that unconditionally loving, embracing, welcoming, to let whatever feeling is happening just to be met, heard, and welcomed. Anger is welcome. So awareness and anger are not two. Anger is arising to the awareness. The awareness can be with it in its hurt, in its expression, and it can begin to liberate and transform into courage and power and assertiveness and speaking up. And yet, if it needs more time, it's welcome, because you're with it here and now. You're not opposing it, you're not trying to get rid of it, but you're not totally identified with it. So.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I guess that can be really applied to anything, kind of.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, it's so powerful.
You can choose any feeling. You can even use a positive feeling just to kind of get rid of an attempt to try to almost addictively be happy. But I have I have a video where I use fear, which is very powerful one. So there's a video, you can look at my YouTube, you'll see one on a prejudice part, you'll see one on working with fear, liberating fear, something like that.
So this sequence of waking up, waking in, waking out.
Yes.
That out part is often the tricky part, is it not?
Right.
That integration part. So
yeah,
what
each of them is different, and they're all part of it's like almost untying knots of the small self, the untying the knot to the waking up from the small self to the no self and then waking to the awareness that's already awake without your help, that has this spacious capacity to be with anxiety or fear or movement. And then the key move is to feel curiously whether, as this awareness, the aliveness, the energy, the thoughts are made of this awareness, and that's what it's called the inseparable pair of awareness and appearance, and what makes it go beyond kind of spiritual bypass to embodiment and it feels like you drop into this safe, interconnected place. The practice in one of the Tibetan traditions is, as pure awareness, you wait. It's called the nailing practice, but what it means, nailing means like a gymnast that nails it, that you get it. You get like, just wait, is this movement, vibration, thought moving through, or is it actually made of awareness? And all of a sudden, you'll just shift. Oh, it's all one. There's a unity, there's an interconnectedness, and that move keeps you from kind of what's called getting it and losing it, like going back to the ego, going to a meditation state. It's this integration, embodiment, interconnectedness. It's actually what emptiness means, because emptiness, it's such a strange word in the West, because we have this idea of like an empty glass or something, but it means there's no separate thing. Everything is empty of being independent.
Yeah.
So it's interdependent. So it means, emptiness means interconnected. So when you realize the open, vast space is interconnected with thoughts, feelings, sensations, and other beings, that's what gives you a feeling of safety and non-worry, non-fear. And
it's an interesting one, huh? That empty word, that empty feeling, like when we look at it in our society, this unconscious attempt to fill that emptiness, fill it with food, fill it with sex, fill it with material stuff, fill it. Yet when we dive into that emptiness, we feel full, we feel radiant, we feel complete. It's a very interesting thing to contemplate.
Yeah, and in this move, which is basically unhooking, dropping, opening, and including, so that including, which we were just focusing on, when it comes back to your body, it comes back to the lower energy centers. In other words, the feeling of the belly, which feels unfulfilled, the feeling of the aggression center, which is where anger or power is, the dantian, the hara, and then the feeling of sexuality or kind of desire to mate, or and then the lower life force itself. So those things that get us to go out and fulfill and try to have sex or get food or get aggression or be better than or less, all of a sudden this awareness just comes right there before it comes up to the heart, and that's where your body just goes like, all right, yep, I could have some food, but that's not what it's about. I could make love, but that's not what it's about. I already got it. I could be angry and about the way things are, and I can take action, but everything's okay. And from there I can move. So that's really, in terms of yogic, that's what it has been helping a bunch of people to really, feel like you're dealing with the lower chakras, and then it comes up into the heart, and then the heart can deal with any traumas that are repressed in that area, or speak out in a way through the upper.
Yeah, I think that's worth just bringing a bit more attention to, because there's such a common predicament with that we've seen time and time again, of one being possibly able to get in touch with the heart and awake awareness, but then something happens. It gets stuck in the sacral chakra, or stuck in some kind of ego trip. So how do you see that, just speaking candidly and even practically, for people feeling that in their own experience, maybe as we often see as male teachers? A lot of male teachers fall into that trap of being identified as like an awake leader, maybe very able to guide people into transcendent states and blissful states. But then how do you see this when energy then gets stuck in the sex operations, in the ego traps, even practices to put energy there to assist one in bringing that loving awareness down into those areas, because it often isn't talked about. I think it's a fairly new discussion that's been coming up with all of these sexual abuse cases and stuff like that. So it's good it's coming up, but I think some people are feeling a bit left a bit empty-handed, like, oh, what can I do with it then? I've got all this sexual energy. What do I do with it?
Yeah. So certainly again, it's why what you said is the waking up, waking in, and waking out. So often the initial waking up is waking up from a sense of shoulds and dualism to kind of, if you stop at kind of that first stage of spiritual bypass, then it's like, oh, there's nothing to do, everything's okay. And then most people don't deal with psychological work. And so their adolescent ego, their kind of narcissist, primary narcissism and adolescent ego take over, but they can't see it because they're detached and in this kind of spiritual bypassed place. So they think, oh, well, everything's okay, the world is relative, and they end up in this disembodied, not coming into the heart. Because when you're in the heart mind, you see everyone's suffering and you see them as natural, respectful, others that have feelings and that have roles and have different needs. And certainly my training as a psychotherapist was so helpful because we learned about transference and countertransference with clients, and had an immediate ethical professional code, and applying that and learning how clients would fall in love, and then you'd realize, oh, well, that's about the love they didn't get that they were hoping you would be, and you realize, okay, well, that's what happens. It's not about me, and it's not, there's a service that requires an ethical development, and this fullness of awakening in and waking out is in this service. So I've been, kind of a strong ethical, person from the beginning, both as a therapist and a teacher, to keep boundaries and to have a full awakening to deal with adolescent parts and energies of power, sex, money, alcohol or drugs or abuse. And it's very sad to see, because it's rampant. It's always been rampant, but it's amazing how it's really being called out, which I think is good. But I think teachers, we've just formed a group of kind of ethical teachers association here in the United States, that some non-dual teachers have joined together and created a code of ethics. And
yeah, that's really good. That's good, because we need more of that, because it's good to be, like you said, calling out people doing this, but then what? We need support, we need education, we need platforms to help people deal with this energy, rather than just shaming it and suppressing it, which will continue it in the long run.
That's right. Yeah, and how to deal with authority and power and role, because that's in general, power. That saying, power corrupts. That it's often those who get in roles of authority, whether it's a spiritual teacher, a professor, a CEO, somebody who has power over somebody, that they use that for gratification of some level. So how to see, you know, the natural order of things and to be a servant, and then to find your own personal, out of role ways to satisfy and to nurture and to express mutually other areas of immaturity that you have and natural desires that can be worked with, just like everyone else has to work with them.
Yeah. Well, it could be good to wrap this up soon. I don't want to take up much more of your time. How about one more practice to stoke a little bit of hope and clear, maybe clear vision, loving vision for the future of humanity and the earth. I mean, I think that'd be a beautiful place to leave this off. Do you feel?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So one of the unique principles of and methods of effortless mindfulness, which is what I'm calling this type of approach, is that when I'm asking or inviting you to unhook awareness and have it return home to the awareness that's already here, I'm not asking you, the meditator or the doer, but I'm asking the awareness that's already attached or identified with thinking and the thinker to literally move itself, step back, and then drop, in this case, to be aware of your jaw from your jaw. So you're decentering what you think of as the I, which feels like it needs to be here, but you realize the whole field is awake. So you can move the center to your throat, and then you can move the center of your consciousness to your heart mind or your heart space. So it's really just dropping from head to heart mind or heart space. So it's not going to your emotional heart, it's not going to your physical heart, it's not going to your gut brain, it's not going to your heart chakra. There's this kind of open door that opens behind you to the awareness that has your back, and that has this safe space that you can be aware from, and has a kind of intelligence that is where you can walk around in the world from, and it is connected to this boundless heart, this field of awareness that opens. So all that to say, let's try that. So we're just going to drop from head to heart. So the key is it's not staying here and just bringing your attention down or stretching your attention down. It's actually somehow, you don't know how to do it, but your awareness does, unhooking and dropping from head to heart so that the subject and the object are in the same space and you're looking out of the eyes of the heart. So just start by feeling the normal sense of trying to understand what I'm saying and listening. Where is the hearer or the listener or the thinker? And just feel that part of you and just ask that part for some space as you realize awareness is inherent within it and arising as it, and just have local awareness as a globe, unhook and open. So you're aware of space from space. Just an awareness-based, alert, potential to know that isn't orienting to thought. And then feel as if that local awareness can drop and move the center to be aware of your smile and your jaw from your jaw. And then feel as if that awareness can drop and be aware of your throat from within your throat. So you feel the aliveness, space, and awareness directly from within. So you don't have to check with thought to know directly that you're feeling the aliveness, the awareness from within, and you don't need to stretch attention down. And then feel as if this globe of awareness drops below your neck into your upper body. So you feel your body directly from within. Feel the aliveness, the awareness, the space, and then go behind and below your emotional heart until you discover a safe heart space or heart mind. Let your awareness drop in there so that the subject and object, what you're aware of and where you're aware from, go deep into the space within the atoms of your heart's core. So just surrendering deeply into that awareness-based, unconditionally loving, open-hearted awareness. You may even feel as you go deeply within the wellspring, there's an opening to this boundless heart, more open presence that goes behind you to the awareness that has your back until it discovers this heart's eye view that's arising as your body and looking out of the eyes of your heart. So just home, sweet home in this heart mind, so that all the information in your office of your head is available by Wi-Fi. So you can stay at home in your heart, mind, and you can even try as you rest in this heart mind that doesn't use thought to know. Just let your phone number arise in your heart mind. And then let it go. And don't go up to thought to wonder what that was or to check. Just stay home in this peace of mind, in this open mind, open heart that feels spacious and pervasive, interconnected, soft, loving, safe, home. And just know that you can walk around like this and respond rather than react, and that this loving heart can be with your anxiety and your depression and your fear and your the energy of your body from this bigger heart that's receiving and embracing you from within and from all around. So enjoy.
So beautiful. Thank you, Loch.
So welcome, Stuart. Yeah, it's such a pleasure.
And for those listeners, viewers that are newer to this type of experience, once again, you've used the analogy, it's like, this is not like putting on rose-colored glasses. This is like peeling away that veil, which I think is really important, because a lot of people have gotten used to practices of positive affirmation, positive intention, positive visioning, which is all good, but often it can actually keep us out from that true radiance, beyond positive and negative, that true radiance of the heart. So that rushiness of using the thinking mind that a lot of people are used to, and getting that positive kind of rush, that affirmative positive rush, which is always backed with a kind of negative flow. This is a great remedy for getting into the true hope and the true compassion, because that true hope and compassion and positivity for our future, when it's just a thought, it seems pretty limited, has less potency. But when you do just drop into the heart, it feels much more activating, much more efficient than just a positive thought.
Yes, and yeah, so that's the premise, is this isn't a state, that this is revealing the essential nature.
Yeah.
So people can, there's always going to be, if you have positive thoughts, you're going to have negative. There's always a polarization within the dualistic mind. Whereas just asking people, just drop into this space in the middle of your body. I just say that. Don't even say heart. Don't even say, and then what's there? Love. Like, you know, so there's some natural loving kindness that doesn't have to be imagined or in opposition to hatred or fear. And it's so, has such a pervasive presence and a saturation of a felt sense rather than a thought.
Yeah. That
can then be with a positive or a negative thought. From there, you can try to have a positive thought, then try to have a negative thought. And then it's like, okay, that's a negative thought. Yeah, that's a positive thought. So they're not taking over. Yeah. That's what that is. That's human consciousness. Those are going to continue to keep coming up. It's who or what are they coming to? And that's what we're really interested in.
Beautiful. Loch, is there anything you want to let our listeners know? Any upcoming online events or anything?
Yeah. You know, you can go to my website, you know, go see those YouTubes I mentioned. There's events at different times. I am talking to somebody in Australia who just started messengering me, and he has like 20 people that are interested. So I'll announce through you if I do like a half day, either in the morning or in the evening.
Great.
Time for Australians, because we'll translate into Australian.
We need that. We need as much translation right now as possible.
Okay.
No, I love it. It's beautiful. And yeah, send through any links for your offerings, because they're much needed and they're powerful. And I thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much, Stuart. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, you take care.
Be well.
Until next time. See you, Loch.
Bye, my friend.